Allie's coming on for the first time, and she sought us out. So hey, I guess we're kind of getting around.
We're very popular.
Yes, we are getting popular.
Hey.
Allie,
Hey, how are you guys doing tonight?
We're doing good. Allie Dalsimer, is that how you say it?
Yes, exactly like that. Chunk it out. Dalsimer. Super easy.
How you like
the banner. So since I don't even know you, and the fact that you sought us out, I'm assuming you tend to be on the progressive side, or you're just a masochist, maybe, but probably you're progressive. Well, I don't know why somebody else would want to come on this show. But yeah, why don't you talk a little bit, introduce yourself, say, who you are, because most people probably don't know, and then we'll promote.
Yeah, awesome. So, we've been a fan. We watched your campaign, and super sad about how that came out.
No, it's all good. It was.
You guys are doing even more now, right? So that's even.
Well, it's all part of a snowball of progress. So it's it's chipping away at something. The progress we made is still progress, even though it wasn't the end result. That was just one aspect. I think that's part of what we're trying to do is change the concept of what a campaign is, so that it's not just a means to an end, but just really part of the greater movement and expanding dialogue, building coalitions like that. But anyway, continue.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
No, exactly. That's one of the reasons that I'm doing this, is because I want to be part of something a lot larger, right? It's, I should take a step back. So I'm Allie. I'm a woman who's worked in the environmental field pretty much all my adult life. And have over the last few months and really the last year or two just gotten to a point where I've been just overwhelmed and disgusted by the corporate influence in Congress as a whole, but really in this district as well. And
who's your current representative?
Our current representative is Jerry Connolly.
I know Jerry.
Long-term corporate Dem. Takes the 9th most money from the military industrial complex of anyone in Congress. 90% of his funds are coming from mega donors and corporate PACs, and we're grassroots. We're not taking any corporate money. We're just he kind of reminds us of somebody we know.
It's all the income. They're just
he's got a lot of similarities to Wasserman Schultz in terms of the scope of the corporate interest money as well as the amount of money they take from the defense industry.
So you felt inspired to go against that?
A little bit. I've not really inspired. So my son was the one who was pushing me into it, right? Because I'm just my job was eliminated by an appointee from the Trump administration, just deciding that natural resources weren't that important. Although as it happened, my position was re-advertised 6 months later at a lower level. So it wasn't a GS-15 level, it was a GS-14 level, which meant that it had to comply with whoever they had there. So a lot of the changes that I was trying to implement had been super supportive right up until the new appointee came in, at which point the entire priority system changed. So, and that was really frustrating because I really felt my job was to represent the biologist on the ground, right?
Say what your job was. What was that?
Right. Sorry. So my job was managing the Department of Defense's Natural Resources Program, which is, it's a fairly large program. DOD's got 25 million acres of land, and a lot of it you can't access. So they actually have the highest density of threatened and endangered species per acre from any other land managing agency. Right there in Florida, you've got Eglin and Avon Park and whatnot, and they've got incredible, Eglin has this amazing sea turtle program, right? And just the biologists on military lands are amazing. Of course, the environment doesn't get the budget. During my tenure, the budget was cut 75% in our discretionary fund. But that's because we weren't building weapons. So, but I managed the program, was trying to make a lot of things happen. That ended up not being popular. My job was eliminated. I started my own business. That was going really great up until COVID hit. Then it didn't go so well. Ended up doing a lot of reading and educating. There was a lot going on with the Black Lives Movement, a lot of economic disparities, COVID really just exploding and exacerbating everything. And we were watching Knock Down the House. And I was like, oh my God, these are regular women. These are just people. And my son looks at me, he's like, you need to run for Congress. And I'm like, ha, right. Yeah. So that started this sort of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And in the end, the final straw that really tipped the scales to being like, I've got to do this, was Connolly holding up the HEROES Act, because remember, that was the first relief bill that went out and ended up, like 75% ended up going to corporations and special interests. But we didn't know that at the time. This money was supposed to go out. People were waiting in food lines. People had lost their jobs. People, we were on full lockdown mode. And Connolly holds up the bill for 48 hours so that he can add a $3 billion rider for military contractors. That money ended up going to corporate headquarter rent, executive bonuses, some other things. It was like, oh my God, you've got to be freaking kidding me, right? So that was really harsh. We ended up reaching out to a woman who primaried him in 2020, Zainab Mohseni. She, I don't know if you know her.
No, wait, what's her name?
Zainab Mohseni.
No, did we don't.
No.
No. So how'd she do?
She's 28. She was like in her 20s, just her and like a handful of volunteers. They only raised $28,000. We didn't even know about her till we went and stood in line and we were waiting to vote. She still got almost 25% of the vote.
Wow.
People are ready for a change. So we reached out.
Wow.
Are you running again? We want to support you. And she was like, I'm not running again. Congress is not nice, and I'm not going through that, and I've got too much on my plate. She has a lot of things going on personally. And so that's when Kyle looked at me and he was like, you got to do this. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? I do have to do this. And the more I've learned about how Connolly runs his district and runs his campaign and who he cares about and who he represents, the more we've realized that, yeah, it's not most of the district. He represents this tiny sliver of people who are fairly affluent, who have strong corporate ties and corporate interests, and then everyone else is kind of getting ignored. And he keeps saying the right things, right? Like he was tweeting today about, oh, Amazon is so horrible. They've come in, they're doing this. That man took $10,000 from Amazon just last year. I mean, it's like, he talks about we need green energy. We've got to do this, but he takes huge amounts of money from Dominion Energy, which is this horrible mess here in Virginia. And he's never signed the Virginia Green New Deal Act, which actually implements Green New Deal activities, right? Brings the jobs, tries to get clean transportation. Yeah. So it's just too much hypocrisy. And I just felt compelled. And that's probably a little more than you wanted, but
no, it's great. And we actually have spoken with Lee Carter. We had him on the show, and obviously we're supportive of him. We're big fans of him. And when I sit there listening to you talk about Virginia and clean energy, I feel like somewhat hopeful for you that could be in your future if you were able to get someone like him as a governor in there.
Yeah, I mean, the state legislature has been doing the House side has been doing all kinds of amazing things in Virginia. EV vehicle or electric vehicles. I will say EV vehicles, that's redundant, but and he did the big thing he did that Lee Carter did was cap the insulin co-pays, because corporations were like charging hundreds of dollars, and he capped it. He did that. That was really huge for a lot of people. And then we've got, I
bet you he'd be supportive of you. Have you reached out to him?
He's pretty much doing his campaign, I would think. So, because we got he's like hitting that 2021 thing. So we need to reach out to him.
Yeah, because he'd be a good ally for you, and he would probably help with resources and stuff. When's his election?
June 2021.
Okay. So then that gives you time to afterwards. But yeah, he would be someone, and sharing resources with someone like him would be a real,
yeah, he really is. He's a working class champion. He really is. But like I said, in the state legislators, there's several of them, and it's in the Senate that we hit.
Right.
People like, am I allowed to say who? Okay, Dick Saslaw, who is
you can. Oh, please, by all means, we name names.
Jerry's supporters, and he's awful, and he is single-handedly. He's the chairman. He's single-handedly killing all these incredibly awesome ideas, including the Paid Family Medical Leave Act. What kind of jerk doesn't want paid family medical leave? I mean, honestly. So
somebody on a corporate payroll. Yeah. So what was your experience in politics before, like prior to this?
Goose egg. In fact, as a policy person, we were specifically prohibited from taking political stances. Couldn't even have like a political mug or whatever, right? Because as a person who's supposed to be implementing policy in a civilian agency, you cannot have a political bent, right? Because that's meaning that you're not fairly implementing whatever the legal requirements are. And
Did you follow anything? Like, what were you following the 2016 Democratic primary at all?
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, you know, my personal voting and my personal politics, I just couldn't express them, you know, with my position. But no, we were huge supporters of Bernie. I was incredibly, just really, and in a way, though, that was an eye-opening experience, right? Because I never really understood the entire bias in how reporting is for Bernie until that election, right? Like, no, that was 2016. That was 2020.
Right.
That was a 2020 when I really saw the bias. Like, I mean, yeah. So
once they exposed the system, because Obama never did that. Nobody did it. When Bernie came along, you know, I knew about him for a number of years. And when he said he was going to run clean, I said, oh boy, here we go. Yeah. I knew right away. And I said, we'll see if he catches any fire. And then early on, he did a huge rally in Madison, Wisconsin. And I said, oh, it's on. Here we go. And even I didn't think they would go to the length that they did. We are speaking, of course, with Ali Dalsimer. She is candidate for the U.S. Congress District 11 in the state of Virginia. Speaking of the state of Virginia, it is a state that has a super majority Democrat, governor, state house, state senate, and it is considered the worst state out of 50 for workers' rights. Can you speak on that, please?
I can. So part of the process that I've been going through these last couple of weeks, we only announced 2 weeks ago, is sitting in on all of the district level meetings that I could. And in nearly all of them, labor issues, workers' rights issues are being raised. And like I said, that the state house is doing a great job, and the Senate's killing everything. You know, women's rights, workers' rights, labor rights. And, you know, since we're talking about Connolly in the 11th district, which is Prince William and Fairfax counties, Connolly's does not support the Paid Leave Act. He does not support flexible schedules. He does not support, what are the other ones? The child care for working families. He's not a worker-friendly guy, right? And, you know, here's the other thing. I went to the 11th Congressional District meeting, and it opened with the chairman reading a personal note from Jerry Connolly, and it said, you know, we have a note from our friend, Jerry Connolly. Thank you so much for the flowers in remembrance of my mother. Your friend in true progressive causes, Jerry. That was the note. And I was like, okay, I think either he and I have different definitions of progressive, or that's just completely being misused, because there's no way in God's green earth that there's anything progressive about this man. So, yeah.
Debbie calls herself progressive. She actually put it out in one of her ads, referred to herself as a progressive. And our local newspaper, when they endorsed her, said, and I quote, that she and I were virtually indistinguishable on the principles.
That's great.
She's progressive, all right.
So it goes to show you that the power of the narrative really goes a long way. Your state senator, Howell, apparently has a fixation on Capital One and wants to rename, I guess I happen to be a big fan of the DC Metro. I think it's one of the best run train systems in the country. And, you know, there's apparently a stop in what might be the wealthiest suburb in all of Northern Virginia, which is, of course, McLean. And the stop is, they're trying to like rename it.
That's important.
The Capital One stop. And your Democrat state senator feels that this is the hill that they want to die on. Can you talk about this? Because I only got a taste of it from Crystal Ball on Rising, but I would certainly like to know more about why this is such a significant issue that they feel that they have to name a DC Metro train stop in Northern Virginia. That's something that has to get to Richmond. Like, that has to be talked about. It's so important to appease the wealthy suburbanites in Northern Virginia. So please, if you could tell me about that.
Yeah, we already have Capital One Center, so I'm not really sure why we also need a metro station.
Because they paid more money now.
Yeah, I know. Renaming things, it's very superficial. It's like when they renamed Washington National, Reagan National, right? Okay, it had a perfectly good name. It was Washington National, right? And so, I'm going to circle it back to Connolly again. His big thing for progressive, in support of the trans movement, which, by the way, he has been completely ignoring until about 3 weeks ago, was he's put in a bill to rename the J. Edgar Hoover building because, J. Edgar Hoover was, homophobic. So that's where he thinks we need to speak.
Ironic, isn't it?
It is ironic. So, naming metros, it's all just superficial. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Just, trying to appease people and make it look like you're doing something, like name a trail. I was talking with a neighbor in just over here on the other side of the neighborhood. And I was saying, what do you know about Jerry? What do you know about him? And most people said, well, I don't know. I don't really know much about him. He flies under the radar, which until we announced our campaign, he was doing. And then she said, well, I know that he got a trail done. And I was like, okay. He got a walking trail done. That's really helping working families. So that was the only thing that anyone could think of. But it had a name that she could remember, and it's just like a metro stop, and it's symbolic, and it's meaningless, and it's a waste of money. But whatever. Yeah.
That's typical virtue signaling that you get, especially from the Democrats, because it allows them to look like they're doing things when they're not really doing anything. And they play to that, they love that stuff. I mean, it's crazy that this is what they're prioritizing, but.
Yeah.
Now, Virginia.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, Virginia is a right to work state. What is the current minimum wage in Virginia?
What is the current minimum wage in Virginia?
I think it's
way too low.
it's 11.
It's $11.
I think it's 11. It just became 11.
Wow, that's high for us.
That's $3 higher than Florida. So
yeah, here's the thing, like Virginia is probably typical in many ways of many states, but right here in the 11th district, Fairfax County, the cost of living is 150% higher than it is in the rest of the state. Right. Yeah. And that doesn't even include like Loudoun County and McLean, those places where it's even more. Right. So how are you supposed to live in an urban area, a metro area like Northern Virginia, like New York City, like LA or whatever on $15 is a baseline, right? It's not a living wage in a lot of places. So whatever it is now, it's not enough.
$9.50.
Right? It's not meant to be.
You wait. It's $9.50. That's
okay.
Yeah, it's a starvation wage in that area. And the truth is, give it unless there's dramatic change in the next few years, give it a decade. It'll be more expensive to live in Northern Virginia than it is to live in the San Francisco Bay Area, because basically everybody who lives and works basically anybody who works in Washington, D.C., who wants to have property is going to end up in Northern Virginia. And a lot of times you're dealing with people that, of course, are not from the area. Mm-hmm. So their community ties do not exist. Their interest in seeing the area grow properly is of no concern. We have that problem here in South Florida.
Very transient. Or non-natives. You get a lot of people that it isn't their hometown. And when it's not your hometown, you don't care as much.
So you have a very big difference in terms of the part of the state you're in versus, areas like, Charlottesville, and, you have, even places like Richmond, Virginia Beach. It's a very different state. And I think Lee actually said this when he was on the live stream. There's Northern Virginia, and then there's the rest of Virginia, or there's like a technical term that they use for that. So trying to represent the part of what do you call it?
Rova.
Rest of Virginia.
Rest of Virginia. There you go. That's good.
Nova and Rova.
That's what it was.
And it is amazing, how much it's changed. It really has. because again, the native Virginians tend, it's just, so it's still technically a southern state. It's got a lot of, those conservative values, especially in the southwestern part of the state. But a lot of what has changed has been not necessarily a progressive takeover. It's been the attack of the suburbs, I guess you would say. Virginia, to me, really is emblematic in many ways of where things ultimately went wrong for Bernie and went right for Biden. They leaned in exceptionally hard on the 200,000 plus a year income earners. And they have now completely taken over the Democratic Party in many respects, at least at the top. Now, the question is, what can be done to really reverse that? And you are seeking to become a congressional representative in a district that from a financial demographic, it's not your wheelhouse. But what has been the reception from the average voters that you've been coming across?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So I'll back it up a little to say that Connolly's got a $3 million war chest and is already hosting fundraisers and doing, his thing.
Oh.
And I said this the other day to a friend. I was like, if you are a high GS level federal worker or a wealthy contractor and you've got high salary, good benefits, and you really don't care about anybody else, vote for Jerry. Right? He's your representative. If you are not within that sliver, that tiny minority of people who have those jobs and who genuinely don't care, because I think most people do care, right? And if you are not in that tiny sliver, he's not representing you. So literally everyone I have spoken to is really excited for another opportunity, right? I live in a working class, blue collar neighborhood. My neighbor's a construction worker. The guy across the street is, works as a dental hygienist. It's a working class neighborhood. I don't live in an affluent bedroom community or whatever. And I think that Jerry he's very competitive. So when we were first looking at his website, he had on his bio something like he's never lost an election since, I don't know, like he was in diapers or something, middle school, I think. So winning and being in power is super important to him. That's not where I'm coming from, right? I'm not in it just to gain power for myself. I'm here because there seems to be a real need. Working families are hurting. You pointed out we're 50th out of 50, right?
That's pathetic.
That's outrageous because the entire infrastructure that supports all these wealthy people lives here as much as they can. I mean, you keep bringing in the Amazons and the this and the that, and the housing prices are going crazy. I couldn't afford to buy my house right now, right? We purchased in 1998. I would not qualify to buy this house now. I wouldn't. I would be probably living out in Manassas somewhere or Fredericksburg. So, the fact that Jerry has allowed this to happen under his watch in this district is fodder enough. And I think our path to victory is just getting our message out. Like
name recognition.
We need name recognition and we need message recognition, right? So we've just started raising funds so that we can train up volunteers and try to get them phone banking to tell people in the district about us, right? And I really think if people will go and look at what I support and what he does not support. He didn't support COVID relief, housing assistance for COVID relief. He hasn't even signed on to the reauthorization of the Violence Against Women Act. What? He doesn't support.
It's not important to him.
Child care. He doesn't support anything. He doesn't even support. So Don Beyer, who is in the 8th district, which is a more progressive district, it's in Arlington, just introduced the, what's it called? It's the Fair Representation Act, where he's introduced ranked choice voting in Virginia. Shocker, Connolly does not support that. I'm a huge fan of ranked choice voting, right?
Okay.
Because the party system's just ridiculous. But, I just feel like people knew what he was really doing as opposed to what he was saying he was doing, and knew that there was an alternative, especially since Zainab got almost 25% of the vote with literally zero name recognition.
Which is why he's taking this very seriously and why he's going to continue to add to his little coffer there.
Yeah.
I would just say to you, honestly, don't pay attention to how much money he has.
Yeah.
Don't even pay attention to how much money he has. How much money he has is not of your concern.
Right.
You need to concentrate on getting the amount of money you need to get out your message. And it'll be significantly less than what he has. And that's fine. You don't need that much money.
His intention, which is also what Wasserman Schultz's intention was, because she's concerned about Jen. There's no question that she is. That's why she attempted to become the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. She lost spectacularly.
It was glorious.
To Rosa DeLauro. But they're going to do these things because they know their time is running out.
Well, especially if his last challenger was able to pull in almost a quarter with that little money, he's scared.
Yeah.
So, and that's fine. I'm just telling you, do not let him or his amount of money get in your headspace.
Because the truth is, it's not about it's not about him. It's about you and the ideas that you're bringing to the table. So it may be cliche, but what are your top 3 issues that you are fighting for? And I would assume that whatever those top 3 issues are, they probably are distinguishable from whatever he supports.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And I'm going to answer that. I wanted to say one thing, and that is since he found out about our race, he has signed on to 30 pieces of progressive legislation that have been sitting around since 2017, 18, and 19 that he's never had an interest in. So we're having an effect already.
That's part of the progress. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're contributing to progress, win or not.
Right,
That's
exactly.
the point. Yeah.
So my top 3 issues, honestly, are universal single-payer health care. Jerry has doubled down on the ACA, and we have 10% 10% uninsured people in this district, and thousands more who are. I am officially underinsured because I decided this year, because last year I paid nearly $8,000 in insurance premiums, and we didn't use it. I calculated it. We benefited just under $1,200, and I'm like, what the fluff, right? So this year I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for the high. The high deductible policy, blah. Yeah. So my daughter broke her toe. She needs shoulder surgery, which by the way is like $20,000. So I'm like, okay, I'm officially underinsured and I'm screwed, right? But you know what? Join the pack. There are thousands underinsured in this district. So universal single-payer health care is absolutely number one. I had come into it thinking that women's issues, women's rights, helping moms, single women in this district, the 3 most economically disadvantaged groups are all single women. The worst off are 18 to 24, then 25 to 34, 30. So single women. I'm a single mom. I was raised by a single mom, right? I get that, right? But it's quickly become apparent that it's all workers. It's not just women. Like, we have to lift women. We have to lift all working families. So I've modified on that one a little bit. And then the third one, because I have spent 3 decades of my life, just over, working in, the environmental field. And frankly, I grew up, going to the Earth Day events and trash pickups and, take all you want, but, eat all you take, that kind of thing. So obviously, environment is huge for me. I had this, I'm not gonna say, but, I don't understand why we can't do the simple things, right? Like, there are big things that need to be done at a big scale, but I was raised, think globally, act locally, right? So if you're not in a position, I want to be in Congress, I want to be in a position to do big things. I want to make sure that we can actually enact all of the Green New Deal stuff and not just have it be a resolution hanging around. But you know what? Every single person can do little things. Every single person can recycle, use reusable water bottles, take cloth bags to the grocery store. It is amazing how many little things everybody can do, right? So those are my 3 top priorities, but there's just so much that needs to be done. And there's a lot.
We just always ask for a top 3, just sort of to get an idea. And also, it gives us an idea of what the priorities are in your district. And not that they're different from any other place, because single payer healthcare was my number 1, and criminal justice was my number 3, and environment was number 2. So we're in the same, the same realm.
they're all so related. They're all interrelated, right? You know, it's like E.G. Omalumwe talked about intersectional equality, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Like, you can't talk about, you know, because the fact is that we need prison reform, like having a for-profit motive. You know, it creates this perverse incentive, right? We've got it in education and in prisons and in everything. And, you know, and it's all related to just the incredible racism that pervades our society. And, you know, watching what was that guy's name who was talking to Deb Haaland and being like, oh, well, you know, we don't want our lands taken away from us. And I'm like, are you? Okay?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you're
at least-
talking to an indigenous person. What are you talking about?
We don't want our land
I don't
being
think there's
taken
any,
from
I
us.
don't think there's any irony there. I think he's being very honest about that. He's like, hey, we already took the land from you. We don't want to give it back. Are you kidding me?
Oh, right. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. These things have to change, and they're all interrelated. So I can give you my top three, but the fact is that everything is a top priority because it's all interrelated. You can't, it's not like you can just pull one thing and the whole thing. You got to undo the whole Django system has to come apart.
Corporate special interest money.
Yes.
That's really what it is. It's just profit
Yeah.
and money, and in every different area. And it's just,
And that's
we're
why they
watching the
fight-
decline.
But that's why they fight so hard, because it just takes one domino. That's all it takes.
I
If
think
one
so, too.
falls, the whole thing falls apart because everyone is starting to catch on. And again, in a way, I think it's a good thing that Biden's president because he's not going to do anything.
No.
He's going to do the bare minimum that they think that they can get away with. But I think they're severely underestimating how bad things are right now.
No, apparently he's going to war in Syria.
Oh, yeah, that'll be.
He did an airstrike just like a couple hours ago.
I'm disgusted.
So that didn't take long. And you can see why they wanted Trump.
Scary, which I didn't know about. It's been a devastating evening for me.
Yeah. And again,
Wait, what? You didn't know about the...
Just when I clogged into the waiting room, you said that you had found out the topiary at Disney was not real.
They're not.
Okay, it was a Santa Claus moment for me.
Oh, I'm so sorry. And I can qualify it a little bit. First of all, I am talking about Disney World, so I can't speak as to what's going on in California. And I'm talking about the giant ones that you see when you're riding on the monorail that are underneath, like, you know, the big statue, not the one like right at the front. That one probably is real. But the big ones, they're AstroTurf.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. And
bubbles burst, you know.
I know it was for me. We got out of the car to take pictures with them. I was devastated. Like this was... and I never believed in Santa. I'm Jewish and we never celebrated. So that was my Santa moment for sure.
Yeah,
What?
I can understand.
I'm sorry that I ruined it for you.
That's all right.
now
I'm
one
all
of
about the
the
truth. It's all good. I need to know the truth.
Now, I always say that one of the biggest issues, one of the biggest roadblocks with Wasserman Schultz is the establishment that exists within
Here.
the county party, in particular in Broward, the chess pieces, if you will, that have been in place for 30 years, a long time. Does Connolly have some type of a similar infrastructure set up where you are?
Absolutely. He's ingratiated himself and worked himself into every committee that's important, every, you know, district. I mentioned District 11 meeting, you know, where they sent him flowers and he was like your friend. And, you know, it's the only places where I've found, this is kind of interesting, the only two committees where there were three actually, but it was mixed in one, but there were two committees where he is absolutely detested. I shouldn't say this, but it was in the Women's Issues Committee and in the Environment Committee. They pointed out, they didn't know who I was. I waited till the end to introduce myself, and they were going on and on about how Maryland and DC are so ahead of the game in terms of their environmental regulations and their legislation, and why can't we do more? And we're so behind the curve. We're 34th in the nation on this, and you know, on and on. The other committees, it was very interesting because they kept talking. Every single one of them raised workers' rights, labor relations, and all these other things. And nobody seemed to connect the dots to the fact that Connolly's not supporting them. It was like this weird disconnect. They genuinely thought he was progressive.
Yeah, labor's a whole other issue.
Mind-blowing to me, right? Oh,
Yeah.
just so pro-union. He supports us. Look what he keeps saying about the postal workers. Well, he's head of the subcommittee and could actually do something to get rid of Louis DeJoy. He hasn't actually done anything, but he has yelled about it a whole lot. And that makes people happy. And
That's performance art. And that's a very big part of the problem. And I always say, do not underestimate the power of corporate media. It still has an immense stranglehold, especially on older voters. They believe what they're sold, and that is what it is. They're being sold corporate talking points.
Yeah.
And so when people like to, Kamala Harris is a great example of that, where she'll put on a good show, but
it's not good enough
when it comes to the actual teeth of her policies. They're not good.
What policies?
Well, that's the point. Wherever the wind is blowing, unfortunately, for a lot of them, the only person who actually was being very direct when it came to her performance art was Katie Porter.
Yes.
And because Katie was going after the wrong people, Maxine Waters decided to remove her from the finance committee.
Yeah, that was horrible.
So I like to point that out a lot.
Yes, because let's stop being delusional about Maxine Waters, shall we?
A lot of people, well, listen, I mean, talk about just somebody who,
I can't.
Again, you look at her district, you look at the fact that there are, again, we're not really permitted to speak about this, but there are certain elected representatives from the civil rights era that basically have, they have immunity.
They have total and complete immunity to do whatever they want. They're not getting removed.
And you cannot say anything negative about them. The same rule applied to John Lewis when he was alive, Elijah Cummings when he was alive.
We have Alcee Hastings,
Jim
Frederica
Clyburn,
Wilson.
Same deal. And the ones who suffer are the ones who are in these districts that need the help.
Yeah.
And so long as people who are trying to literally turn over the apple cart right now, I preach patience, even though patience doesn't exist right now, but we are getting good people in. And what has changed in the last 3 years, not even 5 years, AOC really kicked it off, but ever since then, there's been a dramatic change in terms of, especially on the Democratic side, nobody challenged sitting incumbents.
Right.
Nobody.
Now people are doing it. And it really was a shifting thing. And, you had mentioned watching Knocking Down the House.
Yep.
And Corey.
And, we all know that Corey was able to get through this second time, which is amazing. And I know her, and she's badass. Like, this is not somebody who is gonna if she's making concessions, it's because she's getting something good. Yeah. Like, for her people, for her community.
And I really wish
she's there for her people. That's it.
I would give another great example. If AOC was not the representative in Queens and the Bronx right now, and it was still,
Crowley.
Joe Crowley, Crowley was very close with Cuomo, and there's no telling the type of lengths that some of them would go to protect him. Now, there's been such a progressive uprising in New York City. It's not just AOC. You've got Jamal Bowman, you got Mondaire Jones, you've got a number of other people like Lindsey Boylan. She isn't just the person who is a victim of sexual harassment and, dare I say, assault, but she's also somebody who has been inspired to run for office.
He touched her. That's an assault.
That's correct.
It's actually a battery, if you really want to be technical.
And so because of that, there are people now who are basically telling the old corporate corrupt guard, your days are numbered, we're coming for you, and you don't have a leg to stand on because you don't have any principles. Same is true for Connolly. He's got $3 million, but like you said, about 2.7 million of that is dirty money. And and he'll take another 3 million if he really thinks you're a threat to take a seat.
Well, and let him, because that doesn't matter. No. All he can do, and this is the thing where the money is what matters, is TV and mailers, right? TV and mailers. Pre-COVID, really our strength, and when I say our, I mean like grassroots campaigns, is canvassing. And we really have lost a lot of ability for that, as well as going to events. One of our big things that we used to always do was go to like food truck events and walk around and talk to people. Yep. And so those kinds of events are gone. And so unfortunately, we are now in a position to rely more heavily on money than we were previously, unfortunately. But I will still, you don't worry about what he's got. You don't need to even think about what he's got.
I'm not really worried about what he's got. The reality is, the whole thing kind of, it just kind of disgusts me. I will say, if you're friends with Corey and you'd like to let her know about us, she's awesome. So, and and here's the thing, right? Like your point about AOC getting in and really starting that ball rolling. I think the squad has just, I know it's been kind of weird to watch, right? Like progressives have been attacking them for not doing enough.
Yeah, no, we eat our own. It's our
like,
specialty.
What they're not understanding, and this is the problem, is that, and this is why there were so many people who used to, I remember back in 2016, people were criticizing Bernie for going on the Sunday morning shows and CNN and stuff like that. I'm like, do you not understand that this is where all the super voters are? Yeah. This is where they are.
You have to do it.
You have to do it. They have to know who you are. It's kind of like we're a monetized channel now, and I have to see that mud coffee commercial all the time. But you know what? It sticks in your head because it's name recognition. It's over and over and over again. Oh, Bernie's on the Sunday show. Oh, AOC's on the. Oh, did you hear what AOC? Did you see what Katie Porter did? And these are people that are fighting for your rights. Yeah. People like Connolly are going to go on TV, and they are not fighting for your rights.
No, they're not.
No, we eat our own. It's a problem.
So that's what they have to understand. And there are dishonest actors that are in the movement. It is what it is. It's on all sides because the truth is, it's lucrative. It's lucrative. But we are in this for the right reasons, and that is why you're here.
There are definitely progressives who I don't really understand how you can say you're progressive and not support, for instance, universal single payer health care. To me, that's like the baseline. If you don't support that, you don't even qualify, right? So that's weird. But going back though, it's really the whole like momentum that's building. I think that's so important because you got people. Like if we could get like Isaiah James and Nina Turner and, all these people in now and really try to because they're 21, right? They're all 21.
Isaiah James is 22. Gary Chambers is 21.
Gary Chambers. That's who I meant in Louisiana.
I do like him. So
get them in. Then we can start looking at the 20. I kind of like Isaiah James. So he's.
Did you see our interview with him?
I did. I saw part of it. It was amazing. I had no idea he was 6'8", but I like.
I didn't either.
I remember. No, he was a big guy.
But when we met him, he was only there very briefly, and then he had some sort of family situation, and he left. So I didn't get to hang with him like I got to hang out with Corey or Lauren or whoever.
Right. Yeah.
When the Tea Party started taking over everyone thinks that this was an Obama thing. No, the Tea Party actually started under Bush. It started around 2005, 2006, and they really started picking up momentum. Obviously, it got crazy when the Democrats completely cleaned house in 2006. And so from there, they decided that they were going to be a grassroots group, just, move as fast and furiously as they possibly could. And at the peak of the Tea Party movement, which was in 2010, they had 40 seats. So what I would tell people is that right now, being completely generous, I would say that the true progressives in Congress is about, say, a dozen people. If you had 40 congressional representatives that were non-corporate, it doesn't even have to be progressive. If they were just not on the corporate payroll, it would change everything.
It would.
Literally. Couldn't get legislation through if you couldn't answer to the non-corporate representatives. So we're actually not as far away from this as people think. It's maybe another 20 or so seats, but that could easily be done in the next 2 election cycles. We have to be lifting each other up.
Everybody needs to go to alleyforcongress.com, sign up for phone banking, donate money if you can, be recurring. And I'm looking at your website, and I got to tell you, you look infinitely younger here talking to us than you do in the picture with your hair all done up like that.
I just threw it up in a bun. It was my working thing. So, yeah.
No, you look like, and it's really cute. And I also like that you did purple and yellow, which, we're purple here. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, we're actually having our whole logo thing redone. We have this amazing graphic artist who loves progressive campaigns and has volunteered to help us with our graphics.
That's what you need.
Yeah, so that's just been huge. He actually helped Lauren Ashcraft and
Sure.
Rebecca Parsons.
Okay.
in their campaigns as well.
Both friends.
So, oh yay! So
I love me, Lauren. Lauren's adorable.
Ali, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show, and we really appreciate that you are fighting for progressive causes. There is no question that we need to get more representation in Congress. I do not particularly like that Connolly
I'm waiting
guy.
for you to tell me that he's your friend.
No, he is not my friend.
You always
I
tell me
really
these
don't like
people
that
are your
guy.
friends.
He takes all that corporate money. He is not serving the people, but I certainly wish you lots of luck.
You just voted for, you're going to vote for Neera Tanden.
Listen,
I'm just saying.
I am in a very tough spot right now. They are going to put a lot of pressure on me to support
I'll
Neera.
put pressure on you.
Well, look, I haven't made my decision yet, and they're already telling me what a terrible
All right.
person.
We need to let Allie give her spiel.
Ali, give your spiel.
Let's hear it. Wrap it up.
I'll wrap it up. Here's my spiel. I am running an entirely 100% grassroots campaign because I really believe in the government by the people and for the people, of the people for, if you think about that, that's a super powerful thing. So please, if you have the ability to join us for volunteering, if you have the means to donate, we would love your support. Get our message out, tweet us, join us, follow us. If we can spread the word, that's going to be huge. We're going to be building our website right now. I just haven't had the bandwidth to populate it. We're going to get a lot more issues up over the next couple weeks. So please keep checking back for more updates. We're going to be blasting things out as we go. We're going to be doing monthly fundraisers online. So contribute as you can. Please do volunteer if you can. And also I'm available once every other week. We do a talk back. So if anybody has questions, you can ask me live on Twitter.
That's awesome.
So yeah,
I'm gonna
Awesome.
put
We're
that-
going to put that up
Gotta
right
put that
now.
up right now.
Yeah, and guys, let me just say that if you even have the possibility of being recurring, and I mean, I had people that were $1 a month recurring, and yeah, you think, oh, it's not a lot. Well, first of all, it adds up. But second of all, when you have, it's really very supported feeling when you have so many individual donors that are really out there for you. And especially now when it's hard for people financially to give a lot, it's just so meaningful when I think of people that care enough to contribute. So people, if you can contribute to Allie, do so. She's fighting a hell of a war chest. And really, I think you're great. I'd vote for you. The truth is, if Lee wins, my suggestion for our progressive community is that we move to Virginia. That's what I said, because we're Florida. I mean, we're not coming around anytime soon. So I don't know. If you win, maybe I will move to
district and
Virginia.
run for Congress.
Move to another district?
Move up to Virginia.
Oh,
Move into one of the districts and
I'm
run.
not a fan of carpetbaggers. I actually think that you should always,
no. I would just
always
pick up
keep
and move
going.
because it's a better place to be.
Yes, always
Yeah.
coming from this particular
Actually,
area.
Virginia is beautiful. It's absolutely a beautiful.
Oh, it is. It's a gorgeous state.
Are
Are
It's
you
got a lot-
familiar with our friend Jason Call?
Yes. Jason Call was one of the very first people that we reached to, and he has been so incredibly personally supportive.
He's
given
watching.
guidance and
He's
information.
always popping in here.
Oh, I'm a huge fan of
He-
Jason. I think that if you are in his district in Washington, you should absolutely 100%
Oh, yeah.
and support him because.
And of course, Jason, you know, now that you've officially launched, we'll have you on.
Yes.
We'll work it out to have you on. But, you guys all have like another year or so for your race. And he definitely doesn't have the lack of name recognition right now that you do. And so anything we can do to help, I'm happy to do so. I think you're great. I don't know your incumbent, but he sounds like a real douche. And so, yeah, I'd like to see you win.
Excellent.
And it sounds like you have I'm impressed that she was able to get so much votes for that little money.
Yeah. Yeah. The district is absolutely ready for a change. So.
All right.
All of the social media handles are here.
Everybody
Remember?
check them out. Follow Allie on Twitter.
And you also need to go to alleyforcongress.com. So with that said, Allie, thank you so much for coming on. And obviously
Thank you.
it'll be up
Yeah.
on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
And keep in touch. Remind us
share
in another, few months or whatever, if you want to come on and have a chat again. Yeah. Cause I will never big league you ever. because I won't ever do that. And so anytime
Jen's
we'll
been-
figure it out. I've been big leagued
Jen's
and I
been
know what
big
that
leagued
feels
by
like.
a handful of people that
By
shouldn't
media
have done it.
people or people with platforms. And it's really not cool, especially from people who claim to be progressive.
We all have to be working together in concert.
Yeah. So we'll give you a platform. We try to rotate everybody, but yeah, if we don't reach out, contact us and we'll get you back on.
That's awesome. Thank you. I really enjoyed this, and I thank you very much for the opportunity to.
Absolutely.
My pleasure, Allie.
Bye, Allie.
Thank you.
Have a good night. So she definitely.
Yeah, I think we should move
is-
to Virginia now.
Yeah. Well, you.
They
can
have
go.
way better people, apparently.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.